In 1517, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door, altering history as many know it. This marked the start of the Protestant Reformation, dividing Europe, which was once theologically united. Martin Luther wrote, "The true treasure of the church is the holy gospel of the glory and grace of God. This treasure, however, is deservedly most hateful, because it makes the first to be the last, while the treasure of indulgences is deservedly most acceptable, because it makes the first to be the last."
Martin Luther didn't intend to start a revolution. He was a priest and a monk, yet saw the corrupt things within the church. Little did he know when he nailed those 95 Theses onto the wall of the church that he would start a huge revolution.
The Catholic Reformation, also widely known as the Counter-Reformation, began in the 16th century and continued into the 17th century. It was an attempt to bring back converts to the church that had suffered an astronomical blow through Martin Luther. The Catholic Church never expected the great scale of the Protestant Reformation. Many noblemen and other wealthy people were attracted to the Lutheran and Calvin faith. The Church attempted to respond with internal reform, but it was too little and too late.
One reform, however, did come through from a man named Ignatius Loyola. Ignatius stated, "He who goes about to reform the world must begin with himself, or he loses his labor." Ignatius was born in 1491. As a soldier and Spanish reformer, he hoped to create a new religious order. Loyola combined both humanism and Catholicism to attract those who moved away from the faith. The Society of Jesus was founded in 1534. The Society of Jesus, well known as the Jesuits, remained the foundation of the Catholic Reformation. The order was dedicated to preaching, teaching, and monasticism. Their main objective was to bring converts to Catholicism. They did not aim to perpetuate corruption by attaching themselves to municipal authorities, but instead attempted to attract the papacy. The Jesuits wanted to spur a global campaign to reanimate widespread Christianity. The Jesuits accentuated a great fault in the Protestant religion. Predestination stated that God had chosen only some people to be saved through Christ, receiving eternal life. It gave the hope of salvation to the wealthy, while leaving all others to suffer. The Jesuits gave light to everyone, that through the sacraments and the power of the priest to forgive, one could reach salvation. The order advised secular leaders to once again build up the church and, in essence, create a white sin. They justified small sins for a greater good.
By the 17th century, the Society of Jesus had become powerful teaching authorities throughout Europe, particularly in France. As they became more influential, they became increasingly controversial. They built schools, designed churches, and led developments in a unique style of art. The Baroque style accentuated drama and tension, spurring emotions. Many attempts had been made to reform the church from within throughout the 16th century. People had viewed humanism as the solution to the church reform. Reformers did not target the spiritual hierarchy of the church, but the abuses of it. While many of these attempts were not violent, the church punished, tortured, or killed those who were not tempted by the Jesuits. In England, Scotland, Geneva, Germany, and Scandinavia, where Protestant theology was official, Catholics were persecuted also.
It is important to keep in mind that the church did not intend to speak out against Martin Luther at first. Nobody had planned for the wide scale in which Protestantism would take root. The world had taken Martin's words and made them a brand new religious branch. In 1545, the Council of Trent assembled to initiate changes in doctrine. The council adjusted and united church policies and eradicated several abuses and corrupt implementations. It gave final jurisdiction to the Pope. It clarified, unified, and commanded the church would be the last judge in biblical matters, and the scriptures should be interpreted literally. The Council of Trent concluded in 1563.
Pope Paul III called the Council of Trent against the wishes of everyone else. It was not simply a reaction to target Martin Luther, but a call for reform. It's important to see everything from his perspective. The Church was losing its authority in Europe as secular leaders began to adhere to Lutheranism, and reform was a necessity. It became clear that no compromise would do, and religious unity in Europe had been made impossible through the Reformation.
The Church, as an establishment, lost great amounts of moral and political power. Protestantism opened new doors to political freedom and capitalism, and in 1649, the English executed Charles I.
Protestant denomination remains at about 800 million to this day, yet Catholicism has 1.2 billion. It's shocking that the printing press and advancements in technology perhaps bred Protestantism to its wide scale.
The outcome of the Reformation was this. Every person was forced to make a choice to follow Luther, Calvin, the Anabaptists, or the Jesuits. It was assumed that an individual must observe the Church's expectations and all it stood for. Now a new idea was introduced. One could choose what he or she wished to obey. It split Europe for years to come, affecting history as we know it.